I don't get what I want, I get what I need. Every single day I'm heading off to my dream, and I get everything that I damn well please. I don't give a damn if you all listening to me, cause I run it. I'm the only one that really want it, I'm the only one that's really on it. I'm just being honest, I'm just doing everything I promise, cause I want it bad enough that I'ma make it as an artist. And I know I'm not the smartest, and I know I'm not the largest, but I promise you that I'ma be the one that worked the hardest. Cause I promise you that I'm just getting started, and I promise you that my skills are getting sharper. So I'ma get charted, can't be guarded. Nah, I'm the one to get retarded. Get the party started, yeah, get the party started. Yeah, so let me get up on it, yeah. Bitch, you got me fucked up, I don't know what's up. Pour that shit in my cup, we bout to turn up. Crank this shit up so loud, sounds like we're sold out. In front of a whole crowd, we lose control now. Y'all take this shit too personally. Everybody got a different version of me, everybody gotta be learning from me. Everybody wanna be working with me, and I feel like there's uncertainty and urgency to find out what you wanna be. But honestly, we change our minds constantly, so stop and breathe to find out who you wanna be.
How y'all doing? Hope you're having a good night. This might be a slightly shorter stream, not because I don't have a lot to say, but because I'm going to use some slightly shorter clips today. Alright, let's get into it.
Option, so I'd be cautious. I hope that you're watching. Don't try to stop this. Work until I'm.
All right, so I was watching some of my previous guests' last videos, and something that he said in this particular video struck me as completely untrue. And I've heard other people in the LGBTQ community say this about straight people, and it is completely false. So we're going to first watch Father Mike Schmidt say something. We're then going to hear Cade counter it. We're then going to go over to Susu to hear her explain how everything that Cade is going to say is untrue. And throughout the way, I'll be peppering in my perspective. All right, sounds good? Sounds good to you? Sounds good to me? Let's do this. Let's see. Let's give him a little bit of talkie time. Let's go from 30. Here we go.
Agree that parents have a role in helping their children weigh the pros and cons in making each life decision. In fact, your child falling in love is a beautiful thing. Your child getting married, potentially raising a family, that's a beautiful thing. And you and your homophobic family for not wanting to be a part of your brother's life.
Except sometimes people date terrible people, even in straight communities. And sometimes people don't like the person you're dating regardless of their orientation.
Experience a lot of brokenness in my life. And if I were to say that my experience is my identity, then that would mean that I'm broken.
Once again, this entire
And I didn't know that Father Mike Schmidt had a brother in the LGBT community. Doesn't change anything.
argument relies on the church's understanding that being attracted to somebody of the same sex is, as the church says, direct disorder. There's not a single person out there who hates themselves in principle for being attracted to members of the opposite sex.
All of it.
Okay, so did you hear that? Hear it again, because this is a lie. Or just a misconception. Either way, let's slow it down so we can really hear what he has to say. Bam, bam, ba-dum, bum, bum. Here we go. Hopefully it's not too slow.
Then that would mean that I'm broken.
Once again, this entire argument relies on the church's understanding that being attracted to somebody of the same sex is, as the church says, direct disorder. There's not a single person out there who hates themselves in principle for being
There's not a single person who hates themselves in principle
attracted to members of the opposite sex.
to being attracted to members of the opposite sex. So let's talk about straight male perspective here. Any guy who went to public school knows what it's like to get an inconvenient boner, and to have the teacher seemingly, when that happens, call you up to the board. They don't call you the whole year, but they call you when that happens. And it's humiliating. You're sometimes attracted to people you don't like you don't like their personalities, or you haven't learned to be comfortable with what you're attracted to, so you're attracted to someone who is aesthetically unpleasing, even to yourself, and it messes up who you think you are and your self-worth. Also, if you've ever been attracted to someone's girlfriend or someone's significant other, that messes you up. Sometimes who you're attracted to isn't really the question. It's that you're attracted to someone. I know plenty of guys who are attracted to the girl before they hook up, and then afterwards they regret everything that they've done. Now, these are not the kind of conversations you have with people you don't really know. These are really close friends. And you're sometimes ashamed that you're attracted to someone. Sometimes you're ashamed that you're distracted from your goals or from your life. That's why a lot of straight men choose celibacy, or choose to go their own way, or choose monasticism or other kinds of isolation from women, because you feel like your sexual attraction and sexual orientation overrides your mentality and your ability to think. There are plenty of hobbies that men love, everything from comic books to gardening, that they feel that a woman takes them away from. I know plenty of guys who've given up working out, who've given up guns, who've given up whatever their hobby was, Warcraft, Warhammer, because their girlfriend judges them for it, or because they don't have time, or they're trying to pursue something and their attraction to the woman overrides them, and they feel they don't have control over their sexuality, over their personality, and they're ashamed of it. So this is untrue. Self-shame and self-censoring is a thing that happens in the straight community. And straight people will shame other straight people for being attracted to other straight people. It doesn't just happen to the LGBTQ community. And you're saying, what are you talking about? Let's talk about Stellar Blade. Let's talk about Gamergate. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to put this back to over here while I switch screens, and we're going to continue to have this conversation. Huh? I'm getting better at this crap, ain't I? All right. By the way, if you're listening to this, let me know if I have good audio and if you're able to hear the audio from the videos, please. By the way, tradespeaks is his website or his YouTube channel. If you want to go subscribe to him, I recommend it. He's going to give you a counter perspective to pretty much what I'm saying. So, yeah, check him out. All right, let's see here. Ba-dum-ba-dum-bum-bum-bum. All right, now let's go to Susu. Oh, hi. She's going to be heavily commercialed. I forgot about that. That's fine. Okay, as soon as the commercial ends, we'll hop back into her. Hey, Kate. I didn't realize you were going to be in today. I'll answer your question after I get the intro from Susu out.
Blade. IGN female video game characters' designs have been a tense topic for ages, and today is no different. It all started over an IGN France article that made a series of inflammatory claims about the CEO of ShiftUp, the game devs behind Stellar Blade. IGN France trashed CEO Kim Hyung-tae by claiming Eve was made by someone who has never seen a woman. So obviously these kinds of statements are clearly meant to rage bait gamers for clicks and engagement, but it stands out to me as particularly corny because the CEO is married to a very successful and talented concept artist, Ji-Yoon Chae, who signs her art as Kyung. She's worked for huge...
And so this is part of what I wanted to bring up in this video, and I will acknowledge Kate's two questions in a second. You are shamed by women for liking other women, and you are shamed by men for what kind of woman you like. That happens all the time in the straight community. So it's not as if these conversations are just one way. When people are shitty to you, don't think that they're just shitty to you because you're gay or because you're having to be a certain ethnicity. These are just shitty people. I hope I'm past the 3-minute mark is, so I can say that word. All right, I'm going to go ahead and read now 2 of Cade's comments. We have, how many of these people wish they were gay instead? So I can only say that I've heard, and I've said, and I know other guys have said, that it would be easier if they were gay, usually after a really bad breakup, or usually after not being able to get the person they're looking for, or sometimes just having a relationship for a while and you just want to be with your friends. And yeah, so yeah, guys do say that, but I'm 99% sure most of the guys who say that who are straight are just joking. So I don't think that counts as the same level of intensity that you're asking about. And then the second comment is, oh, he's going on a trip tomorrow. Well, Cade, I hope you have a very awesome trip tomorrow. I hope it's very safe and you have a very good trip. Let's continue with the video.
Companies like Blizzard, Square Enix, as well as other shift-up games like Nikke and Destiny Child. IGN not doing their research here really gargles gorilla gonads, in my opinion, because they missed an awesome opportunity to highlight a woman in gaming. They try to show how they care about female representation in games while simultaneously acting like women couldn't possibly have any involvement in creating sexy characters like Eve. This is erasure,
and this is very true. So for those that don't know, in my early 20s, up to my mid-20s, I wrote for, I think from 18 to 23, I wrote for a deconstructionist magazine. It was a local mag here where I live. Is, you know, probably our best sells was like 1,000 issues. It was not a very big deal, but while writing it, I did spend a lot of time with feminists of different waves, I guess you would call it, and dispositions, and a lot of them viewed the judgment from other women and the criticism from other women of beauty standards, of you're not allowed to be sexy because you can't be a real feminist if you're sexy. And this would really bother them. Think of Lauren Chen. Think of Mouse, if you know who Mouse is. Mighty Mouse from Twitch, from TikTok. Or think of, even now, I think Melanie Mack is now doing it a little bit to the far left. This kind of hypocritical standard that where you're allowed to be beautiful, but someone else isn't. And if someone else reaches a level of sexy that's too overt, suddenly they're, you know, a slut. They're terrible. They're unattractive. They're hurting the cause. But if someone who you agree with ideologically does the same thing, they're a hero. They're representing your cause. So this happens, and this happens with men too. This happens within groups. So don't think it's just a one-sided thing. Shame comes from many places, not just your parents, not just your religion, not just from the inside. Like, it's not just personal embarrassment. People will shame other people for many reasons, even political.
and it's really gross. I've also been a big fan of Kim Hyung-tae's art ever since I saw his art on the cover of the Magna Carta games, as well as his work for Queen's Blade. So, you know, as a fan, it sucks seeing him slandered like that. The article also makes comparisons between two other famous female characters. Talk about sexism, not even fictional women are safe from being pit against one another. They mentioned Bayonetta, saying she is an iconic character design.
And I remember when Bayonetta was being trashed, okay? So, like, yeah, this is another one that's very clearly being hypocritical when they do this.
And therefore,
to get started in data analytics, you don't.
Let's see how many commercials we get. I somehow got to make enough money that I can afford to get whatever the subscription service is.
particularly offensive to me because back in the day, the sentiment of women can be sexy and strong wasn't common. It's like,
you know, also back when I was playing video games hardcore style, there was Blood Rain. You know, so this is really hypocritical. You know, you end up finding yourself in these niches where if you want to express yourself a certain way, you have to belong to a certain group. And it's really, really unfair. It's unfair that you have to be part of the goth group or part of the punk group to be able to be yourself, even if that's not necessarily the group that you belong to. You know, and I think that is a real problem. that you have to be part of a subculture to be able to be true to yourself when you can't just be yourself normally. So I do think that is changing, but I think that's because the standard in the Overton window is changing, not because people's nature is changing.
Like basically beating a dead horse today. Everybody knows that. But believe me when I tell you, times were more sexist just like 10 years ago, which isn't that long, but I'm telling you, we've come a long way in gaming. Now we have more female gamers openly expressing that they like these characters.
But notice that when she starts examining who are the people who are being sexist to women for being too sexy, it's not men. It's women trying to control other women. Because apparently the women who are conforming or who are expressing themselves sexually are somehow doing so for men's attention, which is just crap. Women can just want to be sexy.
Because they're not getting shamed for it like they used to. To some of you guys, this may sound like totally crazy, and maybe it's because you're under 20 years old or something, but us old heads, we remember a time where women were shamed for liking sexy female characters, usually by like other women, or sometimes guys would be really weird about it. Like, I used to like playing as Evie.
You know, I went to the comic book shop today, and my favorite comic book shop is now owned by a lady. There was kind of a controversy when she took it over because the person who was supposed to take it over, I guess, didn't want it. But this is the oldest comic book shop in my area. This person's like the king of comic books. His name's Helgi. The store is called Myth Adventures. It's a landmark for where I live. Anybody who's liked comic books in this area has gone to that store and bought a comic book at least once. He's been around since the late 70s. And the person who now owns it is female. And it's now being a female-led comic shop, but she's still keeping all the Helgi stuff around. And I think that's awesome. But there was a time where to see a female in a comic shop was super rare. And a girl or woman liking comics would be shamed. And where even if you were on a date with a person who you trusted and you brought up comic books, the female person in this group would pretend not to like them or pretend not to know about them, even though these would be iconic characters. Because that's how ingrained their shame was to be able to like a fictional character. There's a time before... Hello, Muslim man of God. We're not really doing heavy religion today. We're kind of doing pop culture. You're welcome to stick around. Just letting you know, though, that we're talking about shame and internal shame and how culture is unfair to pretty much everybody who doesn't conform to some kind of weird ideal standard. I haven't gotten there yet in the conversation, but that's what we're talking about. But thank you for joining.
In Soul Calibur because she was cool and I thought she was hot, and I liked the challenge that her cool throws would do. Like pulling off Summon Suffering was the biggest move ever. Okay, it made me feel really cool, and I liked to show off that I could do it, so I would play Evie. And then sometimes guys would be like, "Oh, you play Evie, you must be a slut," blah blah. And I'm like 14. What the fuck? It was a weird time. I also like playing Valdo because he's also fun in it.
I do think it's cool that a lot of this stuff has become more mainstream thanks to things like X-Men 97 and Marvel and DC. But I do still feel that people are being shamed. They try to be someone who's into these things in a different circumstance or different culture, different group. You'll still be knocked down for it, even if they themselves actually like the same things.
A challenge, and he's pretty slutty.
And Susu herself has been a victim of this. She, I think, has handled it better than most creators. But I know a lot of creators that I followed throughout the years that once the shaming from outside parties gets too high, they have to quit. Like, they just can't do it anymore. They can't deal with people's unnecessary criticism of how they dress and what they say. It just makes it hard to be yourself on screen.
Too, but no one ever shamed me for that. It's always been kind of people being a lot more hateful towards the sexy female characters. And another thing, that's what makes Valdo special, because he was a sexy man. And for whatever reason, people act like he wasn't sexy. Okay, maybe he was like a little weird and corpse-like or whatever, but that just makes him hotter to me. So take that, sexists. They do the same.
So to answer Muslim man of God, yes, I do feel that this is a very important topic about cultural shaming. That's why I'm covering it, and I'm glad you appreciate it. This is not my usual topic. I do a different topic every week, and every other week I go back to Christianity. But this week we're doing shame. So we're going to be doing a few different videos talking about shame in the culture. Right now we're doing Gamergate. I usually do 3 different creators throughout the week, and it's Monday through Thursday. I usually go from 10 o'clock till midnight. Today I did 10:30 because I was working on a video for a topic video that I will post later this week.
Same with 2B, praising her for inspiring an entire generation of cosplayers, then go on to call Eve a bland, sexualized doll. This was upsetting to read because Bayonetta and 2B had to overcome an onslaught of negativity and—
I'll be really blunt. I don't know who 2B is. I know the League of Legends characters. I know Blood Rain. I know Bayonetta. I don't know who 2B is. I'm going to be blunt about it.
Sexism claims to be seen as the icons they are today. I was there, I remember. You can't fool me. Also, speaking of 2B, Keiichi Okabe, who worked on the soundtrack for Nier Automata, also worked on some of Stellar Blade's music. Worlds are colliding. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, in Stellar Blade, Eve is a battle android whose purpose is eradicating—
So I didn't know she was an android. My wife's Asian. So I've been to China. I've been to the Asian world. So to be honest, the character just looked— I mean, obviously my wife doesn't look exactly like that, but she just looked like people I saw on the street. So this didn't shock me.
An evil alien life form. So the aesthetics and themes throughout the game have a lot of biblical
These look really phallic, by the way. The monsters look really phallic.
Bayonetta, and maybe wish the game leaned more heavily into that aesthetic.
And we remember our was it cheerleader chainsaw or chainsaw cheerleader or cheerleader chainsaw massacre or something like that? Bubblegum chainsaw? Is that what it was?
Because it's never not cool, no matter how many times it's reimagined. I also wish the game took a page out of Nier Automata's book by making the android characters a bit more—
Yeah, I don't play Nier Automata, so—
fleshed out and interesting in the game. Stellar does have a comic that shows Eve and Tachi on their home planet, but if people have to look outside of the game for more context about the characters, they most likely—
If you want— I mean, this is controversial, and people aren't going to like what I'm about to say. But if you want to read 2 comic books that cover this, the shame issue really good, I would recommend either Saga or Sunstone. Be over 18, just FYI. But they're both from Image. They're great comics. They're great runs. The art in Sunstone is amazing. It is adult stuff, okay? It's adult fare. So if you can't handle that, don't get it. But Sunstone and Saga handle the issue of shame. And Saga handles the issue of generational shame, I think, better than any comic I've ever read. And that includes X-Men, and I love X-Men.
won't do that and they're gonna miss out. So just put it in the game. Eve also has like a British accent. Like that wasn't even British, whatever. She has a British accent like Bayonetta. Artists get together and make them all like interacting and being friends. None of this competitiveness, just good old— Bayonetta was frequently painted to be a sexist design by game journos back in 2012, who, like the people writing for IGN today, didn't do any research and one—
Yeah, I don't like that cultural shaming takes place on the journalistic level now. I remember when X-Play was X-Play, and Morgan Webb would spend time being sexually or sensually unsexual. So she never sexualized herself, except for the Maxim spread that she did. But she didn't sexualize herself as a gamer. She was just a weird gamer chick. But by being assertive and being an expert in her field, everyone found her attractive. Yeah, if you put her up next to a conventionally beautiful person, maybe you wouldn't think she's attractive. But when you added in the factor that she was cool, that she liked video games, that she played video games, that she had an attitude about it, that she understood PC culture and she understood how to program and game, it made her way more attractive. But it made her attractive to her specific set. And I always thought about what obstacles she would have overcome to be able to express herself that way, to be able to make it to television as a professional geek. And that's not easy to do, 20 years ago. Nowadays, yeah, sure, you can make a profession of it, but people had to do it first. And so I'm really impressed by what Morgan Webb did to let people like Susu and let people like I'm gonna say Melanie Mac, even though I'm not particularly a Melanie Mac fan currently, but to let all these gamers become this popular, it took Morgan Webb to do it first.
Once again, disregarded the women behind the designs. Just look at this video of Feminist Frequency's Anita Sarkeesian commenting on Bayonetta.
The game stars a character named...
And this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to rewind it so I don't speak over it, okay? This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're being culturally shamed by the left for being too left. Like, it's so weird. You're being shamed for not being conservative by the left, which by definition is not conservative. It's really stupid.
Just look at this video of Feminist Frequency's Anita Sarkeesian commenting on Bayonetta.
The game stars a character named Bayonetta. It's your basic story of a shape-shifting witch dressed in skin-tight leather who can turn into giant cats and has a small arsenal of weapons, including whips. And of course she's lost her memories, and there's some evil demon horde, and there's a magical gem of the world, something, and so forth. But all of that is besides the point when it comes to this game. First, the positive things about the game. She's a single mother, and that's kind of it. So on to the negatives. She carries with her 4 pistols, 2 of which are strapped to her high-heeled boots, which provide the perfect opportunity for her to contort her body into pornographic poses, including spreading her legs and doing a little flip in the air to kill the bad guys. When she lands, she does a little
I think it's funny that 10 years ago this was controversial, and now it's a young adult teenagers game on the Switch. Goes from controversial to being just acceptable. That's funny.
sexy pose for the player, complete with the sound of a camera shutter snapping. But it gets even better because one of...
Like, think about Adventure Time. Imagine Adventure Time 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It would just be so controversial. And now it's a safe kids cartoon.
Her most powerful weapons involves her stripping all her clothes off and turning her hair into an evil demon weapon fighting machine. Did you get that? The whole taking all her clothes off in order to use her hair as a weapon? Because clearly you can't...
And I think Anna Sarkeesian's take on this is so disrespectful to the female artists involved in this game and the female players of this game. But I think Susu's response is perfect. And I wish when I was being shamed for being either for when I was too skinny or when I was too chubby, for having, the man boobies, for not looking conventional, for having a little elf ear. I wish that I had the confidence and the intelligence to say what Susu says to this.
Use your hair to drag demons down to hell if you're fully clothed. Predictably, the internet is now infested with gamers' screen captures of various ways that they got Bayonetta naked, as if this pornographic, overly sexualized...
You know, the prudism and all of that and the wokeism, I know that everyone's saying it's dying, but it's been around for so long now, I don't see it just disappearing.
Bad enough. The way that Bayonetta restores her power is by sucking on a lollipop. But I'm not
And that's something that a lot of people attack conservatives and Republicans because supposedly we're repressive. But if you go back, look at who's creating these laws. It's Democrats. Who was going after music? It was Dan Quayle's wife. Who was going after movies and all of that? It was the Democrats. It's not the Republicans. Yeah, states like Texas do pass certain restrictions, but places like California do too. So, like, don't think that just because you have a bastion of quote-unquote acceptance that it's true. Sometimes that bastion is just to hide an uglier face underneath.
Really here to discuss the overly sexualized adolescent male fantasy that Bayonetta is, but rather talk about part of the game's marketing strategy.
Attitudes like that weren't uncommon when it came to Bayonetta, which sucks because Bayonetta's designer, Mari Shimikaze, who also goes by the alias Shimako, is female, she's not dead. On Platinum Games' official blog, Shimako made a post in 2009 that stated that she enjoyed how when Bayonetta uses more of her power,
Yeah, I don't usually do politics on this channel, not that I don't want to, I just don't. But I'm a Republican, so yeah, no, I'm in the conservative camp technically, but my views haven't really changed in the last 20 years outside of my theological views. So I'm technically, like, if you go back 30 years, I'm like super liberal, but somehow my views are now conservative. Like, it's just insane, even though it's the same view.
She reveals more of her skin. Her power comes from her hair, which is wrapped around her body to make her outfit. So she's not actually wearing clothes, she's wearing her hair. And nudity is often seen as vulnerability, but Bayonetta makes it her strength, which a lot of women felt was cool and sexy and empowering. Me, I'm those women. Bayonetta not only got slandered for being like hypersexual with her personality and all that, she got slandered for the way that she was like drawn. People would say, oh, there's no way, this body's impossible. She's like 8 heads tall, she's like 8 feet tall, that's not real. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's not real. She's a super powerful, sexy witch who uses her hair to kill giant.
Yeah, that's always bothered me when people say that comic books or certain fantasy characters aren't realistic. Like, they're fantasy characters. They're not supposed to be realistic. They're supposed to be idealistic.
Lovecraftian angel creatures. You know, maybe that extra arm length helps her fight better. But it was a stylistic choice because the longer limbs made the action sequences more aesthetically pleasing because it was easier to follow her movements. Bayonetta was
probably
able to
play
transcend
Celebrate when it
hateful
comes to
labels
PC,
because
if
the
it ever
gameplay
comes
was
to
great,
PC.
and people highlighted the fact that the designer was a woman. And Shimako's ideas were also utilized in shaping Bayonetta's super sexy and super dommy personality. Women who loved Bayonetta spoke up, and now she's adored by like everybody. Time, however, is a flat circle, and we're seeing all the trash that was said about Bayonetta and to be said about Eve. If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it, so here we go again. And I bet anything, journos who insulted Stellar Blade will later release articles about how Eve is an icon and an inspiration.
No, I think Susu's absolutely right here. You're going to see hypocrisy in just a few years. The exact same people. It's not even going to be writers like who agreed with them. It's going to be the exact same people now saying, oh, well, that was different. And it's like, don't you remember what you yourself said? Don't you remember your own hypocrisy? And I think hypocrisy ties into shame incredibly so. I think cultural shaming and social shaming comes from hypocrisy. It comes from people being ashamed of their own likes. It's as me and Cade were talking about, the same people that picked on me for being a sissy back when I was a skinny kid, a few years later, maybe 10 years later, 15 years later, were coming up to me and apologizing because they themselves were gay and they thought that my femininity somehow hurt their credibility as a man. And it's like, dude, I was straight. I don't know what to tell you. I just happened to have been a wimp, and now I'm not. And I'm glad I beat the crap out of you. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. He-Man's a perfect example. She-Ra's a perfect example. These are ideals. I think that's where Kevin Smith really got the characters wrong, is that he forgot they were ideals and he tried to make them relatable and tried to make them, you know, fit into, you know, some wave, some ultra wave of feminism. It's like, that's not what the characters are. You can do that with characters, but not with these characters. That's not what these characters are representing.
But I'll remember what they said at the beginning. I was here. I was here when it was written. So with the biggest criticism against Stellar Blade being the fact that Eve was an unrealistic depiction of a woman and a sexualized doll and all that, it must have been a really big plot twist for the detractors to discover that Eve was based off a real woman, South Korean model Shin Jae-eun, who shipped up 3D scans to create Eve. So this whole
And believe it or not, that's not unusual for China. So in China, so in America, I'm not considered fat, but in China, I'm super fat. I'm 5'9", and in China, while I was there, I think I weighed 180, and I was considered obese. So, like, the beauty standards are different in every culture, and this is not an unrealistic standard for Korea or for China, where people don't eat as much and they walk a lot more, and their concerns with diet and health are very different. So there's like this in China right now, there's this thing where people have diabetes and they don't know it because they eat so much rice and pasta, but because they're obsessed with being attractive and looking a certain way, they think they're healthy because they're physically skinny, but they don't do any weightlifting, so their sugar and their carbs are just out of control.
IGN debacle created a massive shitstorm on Twitter, aka X.com, Elon's sex bot haven, because if you post anything there...
Now, this hasn't happened to me. I have my main account, and I get very little sex bots on my main account, so that has not happened to me. I've gotten like a few, and I blocked them, and I never have to deal with them. So it might have to do with what she's posting, and people are just sub-posting under her to try to get, like, you know, followed, because she's a sexy person, so they want her audience to come to them. Maybe I'm correct. I could be completely wrong on that.
You'll be swarmed by porn spam bots. Wow, your dog just died. Well, come on down to Ram Ranch and check out the 18 naked cowboys in the showers at Ram Ranch. Okay, sorry about that. I'm personally just really annoyed at how often I get porn spammed on Twitter, and I'm kind of letting it affect me today, so again, sorry. I think Twitter has on people complaining and harassing game developers, but they don't buy the games even if the developers apologize and make the changes.
And that's the other thing. That's very true. These people who are whining about these things don't actually buy the product. If you're not reading X-Men, why should the X-Men comics change to fit your wants? If you're not going to go watch the movie, why should the people who are writing Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel change their character to fit your wants if you're not going to go see it? Because I've gone and see all these movies. I go see all these movies. I go read these comics, whether they're good or bad. I'm reading them. And these artists trying to fit your taste is ruining my entertainment. So, like, if you're not going to watch it, quit complaining. It's not for you. There's plenty of stuff out there that's not for me. I don't watch it. If I'll try an episode, maybe I'll try a pilot, maybe I'll try a finale. If I don't like it, I don't ever watch it again. It's that simple. I don't have to like it. It doesn't have to be for me.
Is that they claim to want. There's a difference between customers and complainers, and a lot of the complainers aren't customers and won't become customers even if something is changed, because the way Twitter is structured is that the more outrage people generate, the more clicks and the more income that they can get, because, you know, once you get that Twitter blue, impressions equal dollars, and what's the best way to get impressions? Piss everyone off. So hopefully game developers will I like seeing a as either a very... I don't want games that look like going to Target or going to the grocery store. I don't want to see normal looking people. I see them every fucking day. I play games to see something better than I can see in reality. And I feel like a lot of gamers feel that way too. So as I mentioned before, beloved icons of gaming like Bayonetta and 2B suffered...
And that's not just for the chicks. Like, I don't want to play a fat, chubby guy in a video game. I want to play a fucking hero. I want to play a guy who's badass. I want to play someone that's at least attractive as me, or if not more attractive than me. I don't want to play an ugly character unless it's part of the story. Like, I like Conan. Is you know, it's not a sexual thing. I just want my hero to be a badass, muscular dude, and I want my female hero to be beautiful. It's entertainment. It's not real life.
Similar criticisms, which triggered some PTSD of the feminist frequency versus Gamergate days, thus causing a lot of gamers to go.
I really do think it's terrible that they're trying to bring back Gamergate, and the way that people reacted to Gamergate the first time. I get it. You guys are... There's a lot of people who are pissed off that Trump won last time, and it looks like Trump's going to win again, and Gamergate's a real easy thing to pin it on. Oh, it's just people, you know, who hate other people. But you know what people hate worse than haters? Not being able to afford groceries. Not being able to afford gas. Not being able to go to work. Not being able to feed your kids. Having a never-ending war in other countries. Those are things that people are also pissed off about. And that has nothing to do with video games.
nuclear on Twitter defending Eve. So we end up with thousands of different variant tweets, basically saying stuff like, those wokies are trying to take our sexy game women. They've been saying this for decades. So I won't really get into that, but after braving the smegma storm, I discovered a valid point that got brought up thanks to another game receiving some attention. Supergiant Games revealed character designs for their new roguelike, Hades 2, and Aphrodite got a lot of positive attention for her sexy design by game journalists. Interesting, considering some of these same journalists had bashed similar sexy designs like Eve from Stellar Blade and even Quiet from Metal Gear Solid. This hypocrisy was quickly pointed out and led to gamers.
And again, I talked about that earlier in this video, so.
Discussing how these biased critiques stem from racism towards Asian game developers by Western journalists. Could racism be at play? Climate change isn't real. Did you guys in recorded history? It's the end times. So with the character Aphrodite from Hades 2 getting a lot of praise, safe, horny for expressing their interest to others. Guys, you need to stop bashing each other for enjoying a nice pair of titties. Whatever it was that old guys used to do. I don't know. In a nice glass of scotch over a pair of boobs, or whatever it was that old guys used to do. I don't know. In order to get less made fun of and still be able to express themselves, guys will say stuff like, oh, step on me, mom, fun for titties. Enjoy them together.
Okay, so what Susu's going to say right here is actually super relevant to the conversation me and Cade were having earlier. I know that it's going to seem like it's not relevant because it's happening in a different context, what she's saying, but this is very true. So she's calling acceptable horny, but there's acceptable attraction. So a guy can be as creepy as he wants to a specific type of person, but if he's creepy to the other type, he's not allowed. And this is not coming from females to the guys. This is coming from within groups within guys. So if you, for instance, with me, I liked a chola and I liked a goth girl in junior high, and I got ousted from the football table. I was friends with people who didn't fit in with them, so I got outcast up until I was in 10th grade, and my muscles, kicked in. And once, really 8th grade is when that really happened, but 10th grade is when it started showing up. But once my muscles were bigger than my head, people, it didn't matter who I was attracted to. I could be attracted to anyone I wanted to be, and nobody was going to mess with me. And that felt great. But when I wasn't stronger than everyone else, I was not allowed to be attracted to certain people because they weren't in my group. They weren't part of the in group. They were part of an out group. And if I'm not part of that in group, then I don't belong in this group. And going to another group was a big betrayal. And I think all of that is crap. I think that's really stupid. I think there's hints of sexism, racism. I'm not going to call it nationalism, but I think there's hints of racism and sexism and bias and prejudice there, culturally, educationally. And I think that really sucks. And you can see this. I mean, you go back and watch older movies. You don't even have to look to real life. You can see this in stuff like A Bronx Tale. You can see this in older movies when this stuff wasn't so suppressed, when it was expressed in the art. Go look at Rebel Without a Cause. You have homosexuality, you have polyamory, you have classism, you have a little bit of ageism happening throughout that entire story. That's Rebel Without a Cause. That's an old freaking movie, and it expresses all of these things perfectly. So, just something to think about.
What happened to the good old days of enjoying a nice glass of scotch over a pair of boobs, or whatever it was that old guys used to do? I don't know. In order to get less made fun of and still be able to express themselves, guys will say stuff like, oh, step on me, mommy, I love muscle mommies. They'll say things that put the woman in power, and maybe they do like that, but you know what?
And by the way, in hyper-masculine areas, it's not that, it's the opposite. So you can't say something slightly submissive in a hyper-masculine situation. So you have to, you're not allowed to like the strong, muscular girl. You're not allowed to like the girl who's a professional or very successful in a hyper-masculine group. And so you have to then maybe hit on the girl or talk to the girl you don't like instead of talking to the woman you do like. So it's unfortunate, but this kind of shaming happens in straight male groups, not just in female groups, not just in LGBTQ groups. Like, this is part of the shittiness of humanity, where people do shame other people just for what they like, even if it's non-offensive.
A lot of these guys that have told me, oh yeah, I love a woman that takes charge. And then I try to take charge and they're like, oh, why are you bossing me around? And I'm like, bitch, what did you just fucking say to me? They're just saying shit. That's what these safe horny guys are doing. They're just saying this because they feel like, oh, nobody's gonna get offended if I say I want her
Yeah, I don't like being told what to do at all. So that wouldn't work for me.
to step on me, because that's not degrading her, that's making her look cool. And you know, it does make me feel cool when people ask me to step on them. So keep doing that. But it's also unfortunate that some of
I'm not into that. I'm good.
it is not genuine. It's just coming from a place of guys being afraid.
Now, if you're into martial arts and you want to spar, that'd be an interesting date. I was my wife's tennis coach, and I don't play tennis. Just saying.
To express themselves how they normally would by saying, wow, great boobs. Sometimes they are great boobs. Sometimes it's an appropriate time to say that. Sometimes it's not. Most of the time it's not. Like if you're at a grocery store and the lady's shopping and you're like, oh man, look at them titties. You know, stop that. There's a time and a place for everything. Girls, itty bitty girls, all horrible people, regardless of gender, should be shamed. This safe horny topic, there's so much that goes into it. Maybe if people express interest, I could make a video of me. Toggle over Eve's design made news overseas and became the subject of many East Asian memes. You know, there's nothing like a good controversy to get the memes.
I wanted to play the part where they had the guy's wife. I thought she did a portion of this video where they highlighted the wife of the guy, because the wife is extremely beautiful and her face matches the face of the character almost exactly, and she's one of the designers. All right, thank you, Muslim man of God. I hope you have a great day. Look forward to seeing you next time around.
Wait, here's some really cute reactions from women seeing Eve for the first time.
Come on. I believe this is only on PlayStation.
Is that an accent that I hear?
Come on, come on,
it's not working! Did I fail?
I'm stuck. Am I gonna die?
Oops. Oh, okay, we're fine. We're fine.
Oh, snap!
It's beautiful.
This place is dangerous. Take my hat. The music is really good. Oh, oops!
Music, guys.
I almost missed that.
Oh shit!
Wait, so
you're just showing
she's
all
very
of it.
shiny.
Right away. Okay. Wow.
And also, these stupid controversies happen over and over again. Like, people are always shocked about the sexy, beautiful, whatever. You know, you go back to, what was that stupid football movie where the girl put whipped cream? Or you go back to, I think even people were pissed off about Sarah Michelle Gellar in Cruel Intentions. And I'm like, in that movie, she doesn't even show anything. Like, it's all just talked about. And people were like, oh, it's going to destroy humanity. Women being sexually assertive. You know what I mean? Like, it's so stupid. All right, let's go to one other one, and then we'll call it a night. I'm going to go to Evie Lupine. I'm going to look for her video real quick, okay? And then from here, we'll call it a night, and we'll do Shame Night Part 2 tomorrow. I'll try to get some Christian perspective. We'll try a Muslim and a Christian perspective this week. I want to keep it relevant to the United States, so I'll try to do a Protestant and a Catholic tomorrow. And then maybe Wednesday do a Muslim person talking about shame culture. Maybe Muslim and an Orthodox on Wednesday. It might work. Okay, let's see. Much later. Let's see. There's one more I want to hit before we call it a night. Okay, we're good there. Let me see. Give me a second. I have something. You know what? I think it was Lack of Entertainment was the one I was going to use, and instead I used Susu's. That's all right. I couldn't remember Lack of Entertainment. So. And I also want to do Lady in the Library. She used to have a different name. She has a great video talking about shame that I think is amazing. I know also Authentic Observer, I think, has a video as well that I wouldn't mind highlighting, but that I think that's too much for this week. Oh, shit. Okay, let me see. Hold on, guys. I'm just looking for this video. community has a cheater problem, not a polyamory problem. Maybe. Hold on, I'm just looking for the video. I had them organized and then I unorganized it for some stupid reason. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit further. If I don't see it, I'm going to go back to Evie Lupine's. Why do adults start drawing? Okay. Let me try this one, and if this one isn't it, we'll do Evie Lupine, okay? Be quiet. I do not want to play the... Oh, there we go. Drawing. Is this other people stop drawing? No? Let's see. There we go.
I used to draw very often. I drew little houses, animals. When I was a little child, I used to draw very often. I drew little houses, animals, people, flowers and trees. And I bet you did too. But if you're watching this video now, that means you're probably looking for an answer to the question, why did I stop? Why do adults stop drawing? Hi, I'm Veronica, aka Vespertiliu.
I'm going to guess that has something to do with shame and embarrassment.
I'm a comic books author, tarot and oracle deck creator, and art teacher from Italy. And one of the questions I'm often asked is, how do I start drawing again? We are going to break this video into a few chapters, so feel free to skip to whatever part you're interested in. First, we're going to analyze what could be the reasons why, as adults, many of us lose interest in drawing. Then we're going to talk about why you should absolutely start again.
So we're just going to do this part right here.
Finally, we're going to talk about the supplies and tools you need to start drawing again. Why do adults stop drawing? There could be a few reasons behind this event. When we are little, we are encouraged to get distracted. A busy kid gives way less problems than one that messes around or just a bored one that demands attention.
Thank you for coming back.
Some choose to put their children in front of the television or in front of a tablet, or some choose to give them toys, or, of course, pencils and paper. Our very first experience...
I was shamed out of drawing, actually. That's part of the reason why I picked this one as a highlight. So my dad is a musician, and I wanted to do art. That's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be in art class. And so I would secretly run off to do art. And my dad would shame me for it. And he made me go into band. But I wanted to draw. And I have portfolios. And I never got proper lessons. One of my uncles, one of my dad's cousins, is actually a world famous artist. And the fact that my dad prevented me from having access to those kind of lessons was a real big hurdle between me and him for a very, very long time. But yeah. And my wife also has a thing against art. Her sister's an artist, but my wife, that's so weird. My wife has a thing against writing and a thing against art. She thinks it doesn't make money, and she thinks that it's a waste of time. So as someone who's an artist, I've had to take on different jobs since being married and have to do my primary passion as a hobby, because my wife doesn't believe in those as careers. So that's a tough thing. That's actually causing a lot of problems in my marriage right now. Anyway.
Experience with art comes at a very young age. We all start...
I go by Alpha Centaurian, Muslim man of God. That's the only name I go by online. I don't give out my real information on here for safety reasons.
Drawing before we even start writing. Some of us start drawing before even start talking. Scribbling and doodling are part of our childhoods. Then we start synthesizing basic shapes into figures. So we create a little house, a flower, a cat, a stickman. We then go to school, and in the very first years, drawing is still part of our education. We start writing and reading, and yet drawing is still incorporated into our education. Draw your family, draw your perfect summer day, and so on. Then something happens. At some point, drawing is no longer important. At school, teachers stop asking us to draw. Our families encourage us to do our homeworks and then just go out and stay with our friends outside. And then when we are home, we begin engaging with things like television, video games, books, and sometimes one forgets that drawing is even a thing. Others find it harder to let go drawing because we are passionate about it. We might start sketching at school, at home, whenever we feel like doing.
So when I got back into drawing, it was two different events. One, me and some friends were trying to make a comic book. Didn't fly. But the second time around is I got into cartography after playing 3 or 4 different Total War games, one after another, especially Rome Total War. So I got really into cartography and really got into strategizing, that kind of thing.
Doing so, we draw. But then teachers yell at us for not paying attention to class, and our parents might discourage us, saying that it is a waste of time. As these two scenarios go...
Yeah, that it's a waste of time thing is so deadly. It's so painful, and it ruins so many people's lives. You know, your passion is a waste of time. Your sexuality is a distraction. Your creativity is pointless or immature or not good or you're not good enough. That stuff is such bullshit because everybody starts off not good enough. The best artists you know, they sucked. They had to get better. So yeah, don't listen to that crap. Pursue your passion, pursue your art, and learn.
Go on. In one, people simply forget about drawing. In the other one, people start feeling forced to stop drawing. So the question now is, why some people keep drawing?
Okay. We don't need to do the why people keep drawing part. Let's go to Evie Lupine, and then we'll finish off everything. We're just going to do very short because I don't think I don't think the one that I have listed up actually covers shame, and I wanted to cover her explanation on shame. But let's see. I could be wrong. Let's see. Why are you giving me problems? You know, let me just type in Evie Lupine shame in the kink community. Vanilla shaming. Let me see. This might not be what I'm looking for, but it'll be interesting nonetheless.
Hello everyone, my name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today
and we're gonna only go for about 30 more minutes max.
We are going to be talking about another social media hot topic, and this was originally on TikTok, and I am not on TikTok for the sake of my own mental well-being, so I may have missed some stuff with this one, but it got really big. Like, it left TikTok and went to mainstream Twitter. Not kink Twitter, but people that cringe at weird things on Reddit or dating profiles or weird text messages. Like, I found
Feel free to message all you like.
Very mainstream Twitter account. And when you figure out
the more
what
interaction,
this is
the
about,
better.
It's probably going to horrify you. So essentially what happened is there was a trend going around on TikTok of women saying, well, I might not be the one that you marry, but when you're having sex with your boring wife in missionary position, you're going to be thinking about me because I'm kinky. And like, I can't even get through saying that because it's so cringy. Oh,
thank you, man.
Oh my God,
it took a long time to get a good mic. It's a Wave Mic 3 from Elgato.
Here's some help.
You can't say things like that because to me, saying that proves every negative stereotype that people have about.
And also, I love going to Evie Lupine and people who are what used to be called counterculture, because I love to see this perspective from another side, because you get the generic Protestant, Anglo-Saxon, what's acceptable baseline. And you get this from the left and the right. You just get like this, like generic, like this is what's okay. And if you go above or below, you're just wrong. So I love going to the counterculture where it's just completely flipped. and they're saying it against the baseline. It's just great. It's great to hear because it tunes your ear to where the bullshit is. If you're just listening to one side, you're going to think that they're being honest. But when you hear both sides saying the exact same words in the exact same pattern, and they're just switching out the word that's offensive to a different word, to what's offensive to them, you realize how much of it is a linguistic game. It's really cool. It's really a healthy thing to listen to as many sides as possible, so you can see what the tricks are in the word game, in the wordplay.
BDSM people because they always are so superior. They think they're better than us. And normally that's not true, but I guess for these people, they really had to go there, didn't they? But it doesn't stop there because I dove into this. I was like, okay, is this a common thing? Is this like just people getting mad over like one post? Is this a trend? And I looked at vanilla, not vanilla, vanilla shaming, all variations of that. And
so it's funny because in the circles that most of us that watch this channel probably went into, it's kink shaming. That's the problem, not vanilla shaming. So I just think this is interesting how this little flip around happened on the internet sometime probably last year when everyone was bored and still locked away for COVID.
Term vanilla shaming has 1 billion views on TikTok. Billion with a B. This is a hot topic as far as I'm aware. And this is really interesting to me because 5-6 years ago on Instagram, we were having conversations about this very briefly. You would get, maybe a post every once in a while, someone would bring it up, and I did a video at the time talking about it, and I thought we resolved this conversation. I thought that we came to an agreement, but apparently we did not, so we got to revisit this. And so what I want to talk about is vanilla shaming, kink shaming, all of that stuff, because this definitely did go beyond just like a couple of people making a post about, well, I'm better in bed because I'm kinky. Because the response to this went way beyond just like, hey, don't do that. It was like, well, actually, I think I'm the better one because I don't need to get ran over by a car in order to get off. And it's like, you're both being so childish right now. Just stop. Neither one of you, neither groups of people here are helping move the conversation forward. So apparently I have to be the one to do that. So let's talk about the term vanilla, because as you get people who use the term vanilla is when it is meant in an insulting, put down kind of a way. And I think this is something that a lot of like...
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I can see that. Yeah.
Younger, newer kinksters are prone to, or people that are not really like participating in the kink community but are like individually kinky in their relationships, they feel like, oh my gosh, I've unlocked this like really cool hidden thing, and I'm a member of like this cool secret club that like is hard to join. And
I think it was like that when me and the guys got into martial arts. Like once we started winning fights, we thought of ourselves as unstoppable and like, oh, we know about fighting. But that, either you start losing or you just age out of it and you get out of that attitude. But I think this happens with Calvinists too. They get into like the cage stage where they think they just know more than the scholars. So yeah.
Look at you over there. I'm looking at you from my treehouse and you're down on the ground and I'm in this cool treehouse and aren't I so awesome? And like... They just think about being a kinky person as being a member of like a cool secret club. And for the record, this is the exact same shit that happens in the goth community, like especially like 10 years ago on goth YouTube, people being like, goth is a music-based subculture.
Just to be clear, I used to be goth, so she's right on this. She's completely correct. I need to find the picture of me with the piercings and the blue hair and the big muscles. I look like Danzig if Danzig was into Susie and the Banshees.
And if you don't like goth music, you can't be goth. And like all that infighting, we're just doing that same thing. So it is something that a lot of people will grow out of over time. And as they get more mature in their identity as a kinkster, they realize they don't have to put people down in order to feel secure in being kinky. Because especially when you're new, right? And you're figuring things out and you're reading, you're exploring. That is a vulnerable time for your identity. And like, am I really kinky or not? Do I belong?
That has to be a ton of face paint, right? There's no way she's that pale naturally with the gloss, right?
Am I enough? And kind of proactively putting those people down can be a way of lifting yourself up. I don't think in a good way, but it can be used for that function of, I feel more secure in my identity because I know I'm not like these other people. I know for sure I am better and more kinky than these other people. And so my own identity is more secure. And that is just, I hope that...
And that's what I think shame is about. Shame is about identity. Shame is about identity. So when you're being shamed for not fitting the identity of the person who's shaming you, it's not just about you not fitting what they think you should be. It's about who they think they are and what it means to be friends with you if you don't match what they want to be. It's about what it's telling them about themselves. It's a very selfish, self-centered, and self-centric thing. I don't think shame is an external thing. I know it feels external because it's coming from the outside into you, but it's really you shaming yourself. And it's the other person shaming you for you not being who they want you to be, or for you not being who they want to be, because they want to be someone. And you're not living up to that standard. And it's an imaginary standard in their head. It has nothing to do with real life. And it's crap.
That maybe over time, as kink becomes something that we can have more conversations about, and people learn about earlier on in their lives and can sort of wrestle with in their minds whether or not they're really kinky, earlier than their second marriage, that you will have less of a tendency to go in that direction, because if you feel more secure in your identity to start with, you're not feeling shame, you're not feeling guilt, you're less likely to put other people down, to put yourself up. But at the same time, though, it's not just to this are then kink shaming by falsely equating kink to violent, rough sex and abuse and being.
And that's a big problem in that community, and a big problem with people outside the community looking in, where they're thinking that being a terrible person equals being kinky, and that's not what that is at all. Most kinky people, or most people in the, I'm going to say, fet life community, they're very nice people. They're super gentle. They love playing D&D usually. They're very supportive of even the stupidest hobby you might have. They're just super sweet in general. So if you're a shitty, abusive person, I don't think you belong in the kink community. And I don't think you have a home there. I just think you have a home there because you've seen too much porn and you think that's reality, and it's not reality. That community is very gentle for the most part. It's like the tattoo people who are they're just the artist from high school. They just now have tattoos, Anyway.
Beaten by your partner. And I don't know how much of it is that they're being hyperbolic and they know kink is not all about that, or they are legitimately very confused. Because
I think they're legitimately very confused. Oh. My cat had an itch. To you too.
What ends up happening, and this happens with a lot of conversations on TikTok and elsewhere in social media, is you end up lumping in important conversations about minors trying to access kink spaces with other things that are not really on the same level, right? Like talking about sexual coercion and the pressure to performatively be into kink, but then you're also putting down people and then acting like it's like you're dealing with just internalized sexism, and that's the only reason that you would be into BDSM is because you are dealing with your internalized misogyny. And it's like, no, it's complicated. Our interest in kink is complicated,
so I think we're going to go through here.
Does have something
we'll
to
jump
do with
to here.
That. But you can't
piggyback
conversations about minors trying to access kink spaces into hey, I think kink means that you're being beaten, and that's the only way that I can think about being into BDSM stuff. That's not fair, right? And I think a good example of this that happens outside of BDSM is
I don't know how much I agree or disagree with what you're saying right now. I'm kind of barely listening, and I don't know. I don't know about this part. I think her and Trent Horn could have a huge argument about this part right here.
Age gap discourse, right? You see people that are trying to have conversations about, hey, why is this 45-year-old director dating a 19-year-old actress? Why is this Twitch streamer who's 35 dating a 20-year-old that used to be a fan? Maybe we should unpack that a little bit. Maybe we should analyze what's going on there and healthy relationship dynamics and how age might affect that. I have a tendency myself to be in age gap relationships and try to do them in a way that is healthier and mindful, but I also think we do need to have conversations about, teachers dating their ex-students. Yeah, that needs to be examined. But then it gets morphed into this second conversation where a 27-year-old on Twitter dating another random person who's 32 is seen as like a problematic age gap. Like, no, okay, different scenarios. Why are we lumping these two things together? They seem obviously very different, and our inability to have nuance with these things really undermines our ability to move forward. And
yeah, I agree, Muslim man. I agree. That I like what she's saying. I find it interesting. It's not relevant to my life, and I'm kind of like floating over her words, or her words are floating over me. I don't know which way to go.
And have maybe a larger understanding and have solutions to these problems and help people not end up in bad coercive scenarios. And so yes, a big part of this is that problems that are legitimate actual problems are getting obfuscated by fear-mongering over bonus to your sexuality.
Okay, and this will be the last section here.
That's not how it works. Kink is not a universal thing. There are a sizable number of people that have kink-related fantasies. At least occasional kink-related or like group interaction fantasies are very common, but most people are not kinky and do not want to do kink in the bedroom on any level.
And I think this is part of othering, which is again something that I was, and I didn't say it when I was talking about the cade of it all, but yeah, I do think part of this is othering. So I do think that if you're in a very conservative family, or a family that is very insular, and you bring in a dynamic from the outside that they do not understand, I think it is very easy to turn you into the other. And I think that's when you find family that's non-blood. The problem with that is that that non-blood family will eventually leave you, and then you'll be stuck with your actual family again. And if you don't deal with your family when it's a problem, you'll have to deal with it later in life, and that just sucks. Muslim man says he can talk about heavy metal or religion or science. I'm kind of in the same boat. I used to listen to gangster rap, and then I went into goth music, and then from goth music I went into heavy metal, and I never really left heavy metal. I ended up loving it.
They are happy and content in their relationships, not including kink. Not every man wants to be dominant. Not every woman wants to be submissive. Not every random girl you see in a dating app wants to be your mistress secretly and would love it if they had a submissive man. It is not for everyone. And that is really important to understand.
I'm not going to talk too much about my my sexual life with my wife, but I will say this, is that the stuff that people who I've dated made me believe was requirement for relationships, my wife did not agree with at all. There were her boundaries and her expression of her own stuff, of her own attraction and own strengths and vulnerabilities were completely different than what I learned in dating. So I will say this, for Trent and a few other people who say you don't need to have sex before marriage, you kind of don't. You can really just get one partner and learn their sexuality and marry it to your sexuality and have that grow and have that expand within marriage. You don't really need a bunch of partners to learn what's good or bad sex. You really don't, because pretty much everything you learn is going to have to be thrown out the door, because every single person is different.
Understand, especially if you are kinky and you have a partner that you want to be in a kink dynamic with, power exchange, scenes, otherwise, you cannot make a square peg into a round peg. You cannot make a square peg fit into a round hole. You cannot make someone be something they're not. And being kinky isn't just like, oh, I had...
What's funny is I just said that. I haven't watched this before. I just said that, just in a very less aggressive way.
awakening to the truth of like how to have really awesome sex. It's more than that. Like, it's not just like, oh, you figured out a cool new position. It's on some level about who a person is and what their interests are. Not every guy treats kinky sex as like the pinnacle, most sexy sex of all time. We all have our different preferences. And some people like very slow, intimate, romantic, cuddly, very warm vanilla sex. And some people like kinky, you know, hard, cold, and rough, right? We're all going to come with our different opinions on that. Sometimes it really seems like
wording, phrasing.
The grass is always greener. And I have potentially a controversial opinion about this, but is kinky sex actually really that much better than vanilla sex? Is there really a meaningful difference between the two? In my mind, Not really. I think
I agree. All right, that's going to be it for tonight, guys. This was the opening to Shame Week. Tomorrow, I'm going to try to pick a Catholic and a Protestant talking about shame. Then on Wednesday, I'm going to try to pick a Muslim imam or apologist and a Orthodox. I already know exactly the Orthodox priest I'm going to go to. I think it's going to be Father Josiah talking about shame. And then on Thursday, if I don't do an open room, I'll try to find Authentic Observer's commentaries on shame, because I think she's top notch on pretty much everything she puts out there. If I can find the girl in the library or whatever it is she's calling herself now, Chelsea, I think was what her name was. If I can find her thing on shame, it's pretty good too. She's very insular. All right. Peace, like, and subscribe. Talk to you all later. I hope you all had a good one. I know this was a change of pace, but I like covering multiple topics. So, yeah. Have a good night. Yeah, man. If we do Islam on Wednesday, you're welcome to it. I need to do an Islam week. I think I can't find my list. I've already done Buddhism and Taoism. I don't know what's next on my list. I don't know if it's Hinduism. But I have a list, a playlist that we're going through. It's every other week we're doing a different topic. And then every week in between we do Christianity, apologetics, or anti-apologetics. All right. Well, thank you, Muslim man, and everyone else listening, who listened or who's going to listen tomorrow. Have a great night. Yeah. Hope this was fun. Bye. Peace. I'm going to go ahead and play the outro music.
Nauseous, cause I will not quit. No, because I want this. Don't try to stop me. There ain't an option, so I'd be cautious. I hope that you're watching. Don't try to stop this. Walk until I'm nauseous, cause I will not quit. No, because I want this. Don't try to stop me now. For me, I don't give a fuck if you got a college degree. Did you learn anything? Really worth anything? 200 grand later and we're not even working. Student loans worth more than what we're earning. Best lesson I learned is to keep on searching. Find your true passion and get to work. And better take action or you end up serving. Yeah, that's a fact. So you better clean up your act. So you better grow yourself a sack. And tell the world they can suck on that. Don't come back, pack your bags. You take a trip and don't relax. You hit the switch and just attack. You find your niche and make some racks. Don't hold back. Everybody wake up. It's time to break up with the life you made up. It's time to trade up. Live the life you want now. A life you don't doubt. I could give a fuck how. Just get your grit out. Wake up, man, this life is a blur. Everyone's got an opinion, so which one you prefer? Cause I'll give you one that's coming from an